My name is Jerry Gill. Today is December 8th, 2008. I'm visiting with Bonnie Smith in her home in Stillwater, Oklahoma. This is the second interview with her for the Old State Storage Project at the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Bonnie, thank you for agreeing to another interview. You're very gracious. Today, we talked earlier, but today I'd like to focus on your student leadership activities. Mm-hmm. You are a history setting, an incredibly involved student leader at Oklahoma State University, actually Oklahoma A&M at that time, right. And served as the first woman president of the Student Government Association, yes. Then called Student Association, I think. Now I'm reading from the book of Who's Who Among Students in American Universities and Colleges, 1944-45. Student Association President, Student Senate President, Independent Students President, Varsity Cheerleader and Pepper Cheerleader, Hall President, Victory Hall's Grand Council President, Future Homemakers State President, College Yearbook Copy Editor, Talbot Recognition Award, Mortarboard, Orange Quill sponsor, 4 years Women's Athletic Association, Student Entertainers 4 years, Band, FFA Queen, Champion State College Bowling Team, and on and on and on. And I just read a part of that out there, Bonnie. Wow. Did you ever sleep? I mean, how'd you do all that?
The question was, did I do anything but activities? I really majored in campusology and enjoyed every minute of it.
Now, I wanted to demur for just a minute. You made the Dean's Honor Roll, which I guess you had to have a 3.5 or better 4 years, I noticed. So right. want to set the record straight there, too, that you did go to class and did study.
That I did.
That's great. Well, Bonnie, can you recall what motivated you to be that involved?
Part of it, Jerry, was the fact that my parents had worked so hard to put themselves through college and to make sure that I had an education. And I just wanted to make them proud.
What, you obviously were competitive, Bonnie.
I had two older brothers.
Where'd that come from in your family?
I had two older brothers, and they thought I was a spoiled baby. And I had to show them that, I was just as good as they were. I wasn't, but I tried to prove it. No, they were very good about teaching me a lot of things. One of my brothers was real good in athletics and mathematics, and the other brother was very good in athletics and music and art. So they tried to teach me what they had gotten ahead of me.
Did you play sports in high school at that time?
At that time, it wasn't advisable for girls to play basketball, so we didn't have it. We did have softball and tennis, such as that, but not an athletic program like they have now. I really got involved in it when I came to college because there was a good program here.
What out of all of these activities, we've described some of them, which ones did you enjoy the most?
Guess all of them. I really did.
Pick out some. What area did you? And I'll ask some additional questions later.
You mean of?
Just all of the activities generally, not just sports, but your activities. Which ones did you get the most satisfaction, the most enjoyment out of?
I guess it was student politics. I
must have been your president of so many organizations.
Well, I had seen so many children, or not children really, but students that came to Oklahoma State, and they were felt like they were very inferior to everyone else. And I just wanted them to know that no matter what, everybody had an equal opportunity and could accomplish anything they wanted to. And it was my goal, really, for everybody to feel like they were as good as everybody else. And I thought our university was just fantastic for that reason.
What did you enjoy the most about campaigning for office? And what lessons did you learn from that?
Competition was one of them, and again, there were so many rumors about what actually went on, and I still don't know what was actually true and what was not. But I just wanted them to feel like that you could be yourself and accomplish whatever you wanted to.
What were some of your themes? You recall or messages, and you run for student association and other, the halls, leadership, presidency, and et cetera.
Not really.
Do you remember some things you emphasized?
The only campaigning people did, we didn't have cards. It was kind of gang sort of thing. If we had an independent meeting or a meeting of the independents, it would be in a room and it would just be filled. And of course, the way the independents felt was that fraternities and sororities looked down on them, and they were going to be very sure that they weren't going to be looked down on.
So you were independent then?
I was very independent,
okay.
yes, sir.
Did campaigning in those years, this has been during World War II, 43,
Right.
45 in this era, did you just go around and see different groups? I mean, how did you reach people if you didn't have, you didn't have internet, we didn't have a lot of printing and, handouts, so how did you reach people?
We had the Oak Legion. You could write letters to the editor, and it was kind of a competitive thing. One of the, now the fraternity and sororities group was called the Representatives. So there were actually two political parties, the Representatives and the Independents.
Okay.
And any time that we felt like we were not getting a fair shake, we would go to their meeting and just volunteer to give whatever information they'd like. And we had a humorous magazine called The Aggravator. And we could write articles for The Aggravator and for the Oak Legion as well. They were very good about publishing anything that had to do with the campus life, and it was fun.
Did you have some rallies, maybe meetings where you'd rally?
Yes, we did. And one rally in particular I was not at, but heard about the year before, and that was the one where Farrell Rogers and Russell Holloway spoke. And I told you this before, I don't know if it's being repeated or not, but Russell Holloway would have the group meet around Data Pond. And he addressed the group of women that night as ladies and sorority members. And that didn't go over too well with the dean of women. So Russell was campus more or less for quite some time as a result of that. But it was just entertainment and really all in good fun.
Did you have some slogans you recall?
Not that I recall, other than just vote independent and or vote representative, whichever side you happen to be on.
Did you have a committee to round up the votes to get people to come to the polls?
Well, we all, in the dorms, we were very active at that time, and we'd go around to be sure. And the groups would meet in the dorm. The whole group would meet down in the living rooms of the dorms, and you'd kind of hint about how they were all being mistreated, and get their ire up. And all we had to do to beat them was to show up and vote, and they did.
Because you had more numbers.
We did.
So part of your strategy was to get out the vote.
Right. And we had a very active town group too. And I think the name of it was Tall Gamma, which stood for Town Girls. And so at one time, the Independents held they did hold all the major offices on campus at the time. But I know it changed after the war. But during the war years, the Independents were very active. And it was a very democratic time too. They all realized that the way our country was, that one person was as good as another.
Did patriotism at that time during World War II, did it enter into some of your, at least indirectly into some of your campaigns?
just about everything. I believe almost everybody in school had a brother or a relative, a father, maybe a husband that was in the service. And we just went to all the trouble that we knew to provide for those that were in service. And it was just an effort of everybody really in the state of Oklahoma and throughout the nation. There was no divisiveness at all. There were some organizations, I was trying to remember the name of them, it's like the fifth something, that it wasn't the fifth column, but it was, they were supposedly communist. And all you had to do to blackball somebody was even hint that they were communist.
Oh.
Now, we didn't do that in the politics here on campus, but it was not above or beyond some of the local politicians to hint that somebody was not patriotic. And it was certainly an effort by everybody to see that the boys overseas were taken care of.
What did you learn about time management? If you're making a 3.5 grade point average in campaigning and holding all these offices,
I learned that you do without sleep. You do what's most important to you, and just as we do now.
Made you really focus
Right.
on things and to be very productive.
And I must admit that most of the examinations were studied an all-night study session the night before the exam, because there were basketball games and football games, baseball games. All those needed to be attended. They were really.
Well, let me pick up on this from two perspectives. First of all, if I understand, you lettered in tennis, softball, volleyball, and was a member of the state championship bowling team. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, can you share some stories about your athletic activities?
Well, the bowling thing was kind of interesting because you would go down to the bowling alley and have one sheet that you would fill out as you bowled. And you were required to bowl a certain number of games. Then those sheets were turned in and they were entered against the other colleges in the state.
Okay.
And of course they were certified by the people there at the bowling alley what you actually bowled.
Where was the bowling alley, Bonnie?
It was on Main Street.
Main Street.
I was thinking there's a furniture store there now. It was right across the street from Cafe Bella.
Okay.
And
east side of the
Mr. and Miss Carpenter owned the bowling alley.
Okay.
So it was an actual course that you could enroll in as far as physical education. And we, of course, now it doesn't say anything about my lettering in swimming, I'm sure, because on my diving final, I hit a belly buster and knocked myself out. Had to be pulled out with poles.
So you didn't letter in swimming?
I didn't letter in swimming.
But you tried.
Right.
Okay. See now, so some stories. Do you remember some of the in volleyball and tennis, softball? Who are some of the schools you're competing against?
Well, actually, it was more or less the just local, as far as we didn't actually compete against the other colleges.
Other colleges.
In first place, you didn't have gasoline, you didn't have the car, and that was why on the bowling that it was done by mail on all of the competition there. And it was really more like intramural.
Sort of more what we call club sports now.
Right.
Kind of. Well, when you weren't competing, you were cheering. So can you tell me about your activities with the Peppers and the varsity cheerleading team?
All right. Peppers.
These are different organizations,
yes.
aren't they?
Peppers and the Aggieettes were the two ladies' clubs that competed against each other, but were very loyal to each other. And then the men's were the Roughnecks and the Hellhounds.
Okay.
And
This was like football, basketball games, wrestling matches.
they supported all the sports.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was first asked to be a cheerleader, I was asked to be cheerleader for the Peppers. I represented the Peppers Pep Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, I moved on up to varsity cheerleader and stayed that till I graduated.
So the varsity cheerleaders was more of a significant. I mean,
They were
more the official.
There were
cheerleaders.
2 varsity cheerleaders. At first, a man and a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and the others were represented the different. There was a freshman cheerleader, a freshman girl, freshman boy, and then the others were all from the different pep clubs.
Oh, okay. So there's just one varsity cheerleader male and one varsity cheerleader
That's
female.
right.
Oh.
Then a year or so later, and I don't remember for sure on this, there were no men varsity cheerleaders because they'd gone in service. So Lil Scanlon and I were both varsity cheerleaders at the same time.
Okay.
And we practiced at least 2 nights a week, trying to get our regimen coordinated there.
Did you have the uniforms? I mean,
Yes,
now
we
you have
did.
uniforms.
Our uniforms, we had heavy white wool sweaters, and the men wore white shirt with the sweater, and then white slacks, and then white or saddle oxfords actually. The women wore the sweater with a white dicky that was a round collar, and pleated wool skirts that reached about just below the knee, and then white satin tights beneath that, so nothing showed that wasn't supposed to.
Oh, obviously not.
And then we wore white anklets and saddle oxfords. And the dirtier the saddle oxfords, the more in style you were.
Well, what are some of your favorite games you remember?
One that I remember was held in Tulsa when Glenn Dobbs was All-American. And Bob Fenimore and Neil Armstrong were 2 of our main ones. And there were several things that stood out about that game. One was that we were not supposed to win it, but we did. And the other one was that one of the spectators came up to me and said, "Ma'am, I'm an old cheerleader from Oklahoma A&M. May I please ring your cowbell?" And I had a big cowbell belt like this. So I handed him my cowbell and he took off with it. So I haven't seen that cowbell since.
Nor the cow.
But that and the victory over TU was just great.
Huge.
And then I remember the one that we had at Taft Stadium in Oklahoma City against OU. And I believe John Gaddis was the captain of the football team at the time. The game was held at Taft Stadium because of the shortage of cars and gasoline, and that was centrally located for everybody in the state. And the deal the bet between the 2 captains was whichever team won would, of course, get to cheer the opposite person on. And the loser was supposed to push a peanut from the 50-yard line down to the goal line with his nose. That one I remember. And John Gaddis later became a very prominent member of the FBI. And he, of course, did cheer the OU captain on to push that a little harder, fella. Those were 2 of the outstanding games I remember.
Did you go to the bowl game that year?
We went to the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl.
And that was also the days that the cheerleaders, if they showed up at a game, furnished their own transportation. and paid their own expenses. But we did have our uniforms. We did get our sweater free, but we didn't get to keep it. It went on. It was passed on down the line, so it was pretty rare. By the time it got on down the way.
Have a good turnout at the Cotton Bowl, did they?
Yes, it was full, best I remember.
Great.
And another interesting thing about that was that it was, of course, during the war, and they had a 10 o'clock curfew for all the servicemen. And they had a big pep rally downtown by the Baker and Adolphus hotels, and the streets were just crammed full. And then if we happened to have a date with a man that was in the military, the MPs came along and said, "Fella, it's 10 o'clock, you have to be off the street." And that was different.
It poured a little water on the party.
It did. It broke the party up pretty quickly.
Now let's see. Also, in your many talents, you participated in the Student Entertainment Bureau.
Yes.
What was your talent?
I'm not sure that it was talent, but they were hard to get in those days. I was an accordionist. And
You played accordion?
yes. And we would, I believe our salary was 50 cents an hour that we were paid to entertain whoever they wanted Oklahoma A&M to bring a group of entertainers. And I remember going to Cushing for one, and one meeting of one of the Chamber of Commerce, I think. And one problem I was never able to overcome was making a face when I made a mistake. So and I made several. But anyway, after my solo, then the MC said, "Now, you may have thought that she made a mistake, but she didn't really. She just pinched her stomach with the accordion."
What were some of the songs in your repertoire?
Stormy Weather. And of course, we knew all of the military songs. And In the Mood was probably the one that I played most because it was one that Glenn Miller made famous, I think, that year. And I also accompanied one of the other student entertainers named Phyllis Berkey. And she was a singer, a blues singer, and incidentally took my place on the cheerleading squad after I graduated.
Phyllis Berkey?
Phyllis Berkey, and she later married Howard Stratton. And she died just this year. And her last year was the year that was the last year for the woolen sweaters. And she asked Mr. Iba if she could have her sweater. He gave it to her, and she was going to send it over to go into the museum there, the Heritage Hall there in Gallagher. Unfortunately, she died before I was able to get the sweater from her. But her intentions were good, and she was as good an Aggie as we ever had.
So we've described the many, your political career as a student, your athletics, cheerleading career, entertainment. Do you ever look back now and think about yourself as a role model for OSU women and especially student leaders?
Actually, there were a lot of them. Melba Osborne was my roommate for 3 years. She was head twirler, and she and I still communicate with each other. And her ambition was to be able to hit the ceiling of Gallagher Arena. When she was performing, she would throw the baton up real high. And at that time, the ceiling was lower than it is now.
Sure.
But there were a lot of dents in that ceiling that she put in there with her baton. She said there was one man, and she couldn't remember his name, that would always greet her at the door and said, "I've got $1 for every time you hit that ceiling." He could hardly wait to see if she was going to hit it again. I don't think she ever took the dollars, but she always tried for him.
Well, Bonnie, in your mind, what's the importance of leadership opportunities and activities outside the classroom in the educational experience?
I think it's probably the effect that you have on other people. Those that are too shy to make a fool of themselves, like I did on many occasions. And I just, the most lasting thing for me has been the friendships that I made. Because at the time we were in school, I would imagine most students we had was between 5,000 and 6,000. So it gave you the opportunity to know so many people. And I'm still communicating with a tremendous number. Wyoda Davis was a twirler in Melba, of course. Dorothy Jameson had been, I think she was the most outstanding woman athlete. The year that she graduated, she'd been all-state in basketball in high school. And she's a very dear friend of mine. Her grandson is Dr. Brett Jameson, who is an orthopedic surgeon
I was
here.
going to ask you if you're talking about from Davis.
Right.
I knew Betty Jameson because I grew up in Southern Oklahoma, and Lindsay, close to Davis.
Right. And I imagine y'all competed every now and then.
That's
But
great.
she had a son, John, who is a dentist and
John,
was
I went to school
named to
together.
the Hall of Fame for Creighton University, where he got his dental degree. And then they had, well, I think Dorothy had, John, she had 2 sons and a daughter that graduated here. And it's just been really interesting she was very competitive, and her children were carrying that right on down the line, and they have really supported OSU.
You hear sometimes about the kind of the conflict between academics and extracurricular activities. You obviously balance those two well, Bonnie, in your career. How do you see those mutually benefiting each other? Is it important? I mean, obviously you'd say you need to get the grades and get the education. Is the other part of that important as well?
Yes. We just, my dad and mother were teachers, and I could see the benefit of both sides there. And one thing that I am a firm believer in is a student getting a job of some kind to work on that job while they're going through school. And I truthfully learned more from the jobs that I had than any one course that I had. And I was fortunate enough to get to work as a student secretary in the College of Education and worked there for 3 years under Wilma Black, who taught me how to type theses. And we were allowed to use the typewriters there at the School of Education on jobs when we were not working. So I would work at night to earn spending money, typing theses. And then we would, and worked on student entertainers, but I got to know the professors there in the College of Education, or School of Education at that time. And was, I guess, one thing that I was fortunate in was my parents had gotten their master's degrees here. Several of their teachers were also my teachers many years later.
And your degree was in the College of Home Economics, is that correct?
My BS was in economics, vocational home economics education. Excuse me. And then I got my master's then in counseling and educational administration through the College of Education.
How did your leadership experiences at OSU influence you after graduation? You know, as a spouse, as a parent, as a community leader.
Well, fortunately, I married a man who also graduated from OSU, and we had many friends in common. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, just a minute there. I'm sorry. Then he graduated in animal sciences, and his work after we got married was as a veterans agriculture teacher in southern Oklahoma. And many of the people that we were associated with were in the field of agriculture. And it just, and also a lot of them were in sports that we knew here. He taught at Temple, and one of the football coaches at Temple had been on the football team here while we were here. And it was, then later he became a geologist and went to work for Mr. W.T. Payne, who owned Big Chief Drilling Company. Mr. Payne was one of the early graduates, I would say around 1918, up here, and had worked his way completely through school, selling aluminum pots and pans was one of the jobs that he had. And he truly was a self-made man and a wonderful individual, and loved Oklahoma A&M.
Did your leadership development, I mean, you're talking about time management, learning about people, are these things that served you well in life as you
Yes.
in different roles?
Again, I can't take credit for being too successful on time management, but it has really helped. We have 3 sons that are all graduate mechanical engineers, and yet each one of them went into a separate field later. One of them went into the oil gas business. One of them stayed mechanical engineer, and the other one's an anesthesiologist. And I think with all the activities that they were in, going through school, for instance, the Cub Scouts, then Boy Scouts, and Y baseball, and the football, Little League football. And when you have 3 sons that need to be at different locations at the same time, you learn how to change your schedule.
You learn about time management again, don't you?
That's about as time management as we could manage.
Bonnie, did you, probably as a parent, you had some leadership roles, I guess, in some of those organizations, maybe as a Cub Scout den mother or different
right.
things. You went all through those things. So probably some of those things you would not ever have thought about, helped you that you learned back at Oklahoma A&M.
It's very rewarding now to see that our 10-year-old grandson is in Cub Scouts, and his dad is very active with him in all those activities. Excuse me, Mary. Good old windy weather.
Bonnie, what advice would you give OSU students today, particularly young women, about being involved in activities outside the classroom, especially leadership opportunities?
I would say do as well as you can in the classroom, but don't sacrifice what you can learn from other activities, because I learned a tremendous amount, and again, lifelong friends from future homemakers, people all over the state that I first knew in high school and then through college. And then later, as I got out of school, Marguerite Scruggs, for instance, was a student here at the time that I was in high school, and then later in college. And she's been a very loyal supporter of OSU. And it's still, I was going through the booklet that listed the scholarships that have been contributed to College of Human and Environmental Sciences. It's amazing how many scholarships she contributes every year. And it's I know that when I went to apply for a job in Dallas as a home economist for Lone Star Gas Company after I got out of school, they didn't ask what my degrees were in. They just wanted to know that I had a degree. And they were interested in the activities that I had been associated with, because in any job in the public, you're going to run into somebody that has a talent in one field or another. And the more of those fields you can become acquainted with, the better off you're going to be getting a job.
Bunny, are you pleased with the opportunities young women have today for leadership? And it seems like the seating is certainly been expanded and raised for women students today.
I am very pleased with the opportunities they have. I'm old-fashioned enough to, there was a time, Terry, when I was in college, that I thought women really ought to be running the world. But I don't believe that now.
Oh, surely not.
I believe that they have their place, and if they try to take over the men's jobs, I think they're giving up one of the most valuable assets that women are born with. And I just think that one reason that a woman should have a good education is so she can help her children be better and to understand what the world's all about. And I just think a woman's job is very, very important. But I don't think it's taking over the man's world.
But there's a lot more opportunities nowadays, aren't there?
Oh, there are. There really are. In both fields, actually.
Bonnie, I'm trying to think of word other than regrets, but any thoughts, looking back, and I'll say this, I know you wasn't as modest as you are, but really had a spectacular career, leadership career, the presidencies and the offices and the things that you did in college. Any thoughts about, you could have taken these and gone in probably a lot of different professional areas and been a professional woman, had a career, of your own. And certainly, you've had a very successful career and a wonderful life, family you have. But any second thoughts about the direction of your life or some of the things you've done? Or
I feel I've been very richly blessed, and just have the opportunities that I had in school. And I will say this, Jerry, as far as the offices that I held, my purpose in that was to improve the organization and make it the best one going, and to work with the other people that were in that. And it was not for the glory of holding the office, because I found out a long time ago, if that's your purpose, you're not going to accomplish anything. But I truly felt like we accomplished a lot in different organizations, and I certainly tried. And that was one thing that I tried to get over to my sons when they were participating in different organizations. If you don't have a purpose for that organization, but have only the name of being the president, it's not going to work.
That sounds a lot like Bonnie Emerson Smith to me.
Well, I truly believe that, for instance, with the independents, I knew so many girls in the dormitory that actually quit school when they were not pledged because they felt like they were failures. And I don't know what's happened to those girls that quit, but I know the ones that hung in there, regardless, turned into fantastic people. And even though at the time I thought the representatives were our enemies, with the many years that have passed, I found out that they're human too. And and really some of my best friends. And I just hope they've forgiven me for some of the things that.
Some campaign statements.
Right.
Well, kind of in conclusion, Bonnie, what today you've seen changes at Oklahoma State University through the years.
Yes.
What do you say to young women today that you maybe have a chance? Maybe it's daughters, granddaughters, or friends of yours that they're thinking about Oklahoma State University. What do you say to them about Oklahoma State University?
You mean as
prospective students and is coming to Oklahoma State University?
I just don't think the school can be beaten. It's just fantastic. But I think it's probably true of any school. You're going to get out of what you put into it. And if you want to sit back and feel sorry for yourself, you're going to be going home very disappointed. But if you want to cooperate with your teachers, and I did find out that the teachers really are interested in their students and would do anything they could help. I think of one graduate assistant, for instance, that taught a sociology class that I was in. And one night he invited our entire class to his home to have slumgullion. And I hadn't heard of slumgullion. I didn't know what it was. And at the time, of course, we call it beef stew or whatever. But he and his wife had really gone to a lot of trouble, and there were probably 30 of us. I didn't realize at the time what a financial sacrifice that was for him to have that many students, because we all had great appetites. And I just hope that at the time I had enough class about me to write and tell them how much I appreciate it. But I've appreciated it more as I have gotten older, and my husband was a graduate student and we were broke with 3 children, and I just couldn't imagine having 30 college kids in my house, because we had a very small house at that time, and feeding them all. And that was just one instance of many kindnesses that I was shown by the teachers and the different employees of the school.
Bonnie, anything else? We've had the opportunity to visit and have conversation on a couple of occasions. Other things we maybe haven't covered, some things you'd like to talk about or to bring up or to mention that are special to you?
There were several that were pretty special, but I won't mention those. But no, I think the most special thing was getting the world's best husband. And I would recommend that any girl getting out of high school come to Oklahoma State University, because the men students make great husbands.
Thanks.
One thing that I would really urge anyone attending college is don't shut yourself up in one group. Be with those that you would like to be like, but more importantly, be with those that you would like your children to be like, because there is a future for everyone. And the future is what you make it. And I just think it's very important that you be able to live with yourself, that you be able to respect yourself. And there are those students that really have had no chance at all, but yet are putting themselves through school. I would urge everybody to get a job of some kind so they understand. For instance, when I first enrolled here, in the dormitories, we all were required to buy meal tickets. And we had breakfast cafeteria style, lunch cafeteria style, and dinner was semi-formal service. There was a host in the girls' dormitory. One girl would be host, one girl would be hostess. And then we were taught how to serve. The host was required to learn how to carve. And the hostess learned to serve the salad and pass the plates to the right. So many students had never been exposed to proper table service, how to hold a fork. We were given a brochure that taught which fork to use, which spoon to use. If you were a host or a hostess, what your duties were. And the students that worked there wore white uniforms with white caps and to keep the hair out of their eyes. Some of those kids thought they were too good to be a waitress. And then later in life, when it was necessary for them to do that, the person that was the waitress was probably their boss in later years. And I was going to be a dietitian until I saw how the kids griped about the food, no matter how good it was. I thought, this is not for me. And of course, chemistry had a lot to do with that too. I wasn't too good in chemistry. But the main thing as a student is don't be afraid to explore a different activity. And especially don't be afraid to be a friend of a teacher. And don't be afraid to be a friend to a student who obviously has no friends. And if you go through that, I think you'll come out with an education that is very meaningful, no matter what subjects you take.
And Bonnie, finally, you recall your major motivation for wanting to be so involved, and you've shared a lot of this in your stories here. Is there some passion that kind of drove you to want to reach out and to touch other people and be engaged in so many things?
Well, I was raised in an oil field community that was, I believe, 5 square miles. And when we first moved there, there was no high school, and my dad was asked to form the high school. And it was pretty much a farming community until the Seminole and Bow Lakes oil fields hit. And my parents had no support except themselves. And I can remember that my mother taught the lower 4 grades in this 8th grade school. My dad taught the upper 4 grades. And the food situation, it was during Depression years. And my mother asked each child to bring one thing that they had that they could spare. They might bring a potato, they might bring an onion, might bring a tomato, but they would prepare that before school, whatever anybody brought. And that stew would cook during the hours. And I watched what those students turned into in later years. It was fantastic. They heads of oil companies, huge oil companies, and just one man was one of the executives of the Tulsa Public Schools, who's had several works published. And his wife was one of the head counselors in Tulsa Public Schools. And the successes of students that have had a rough time growing up has really impressed me with how important it is to take advantage of the opportunities you have. And most of those students worked their way through college after they had successful grade school and high school careers. And the main thing again was to just see what decent people they turned into. My parents, again, my dad had a Maltese Ford and they raised a garden. So in addition to teaching, Mother and Daddy would load up the vegetables from the garden and go through the oil field community, and Mother would knock on the door and ask if they would like to buy some vegetables. And that way they were able to support their family, because teacher salary was pretty pathetic at that time. And I just feel that I've been blessed so much. And another thing I wanted to explain or stress to someone coming to school: don't be ashamed of your religion. And one of the richest associations you will have will be with your church. And Stillwater has a tremendous number of churches that really cater to the university students. And we have, again, lifelong friends that we made through the church. And so many of my friends had the same experience with whatever church they attended.
Well, summarizing a couple things that you've discussed in our conversation, you brought out that sort of motivated you to be the leader and be engaged as much as you were, is that you feel like that people should reach their full potential and to reach out to people and be engaged in relationship building is an important part of that, being all they can be.
Right.
And I think you indicated also that part of your motivation, particularly for the political organizations, was to help better those organizations and people in those organizations. Right. Is that a fair summary of those
Yes.
two statements?
Again, Jerry, I had, and this was, I apologize for harping on fraternities and sororities, but we were from a very small town, and we had two girls from our school. One of them was from a very successful family. The other one, her dad ran a filling station, and it was all they could do to exist on what he made. But both girls, when they came up here, all of a sudden, they did pledge, but all of a sudden they became ashamed of their parents because they didn't have the background, the table manners, the dress, when in reality it was taking all their parents had to keep them in school with what they could earn. And my motivation was for every student, no matter what their financial background, no matter what their educational background, was for every student to acknowledge that their parents were so important. And that their family was so important.
Did we get the evening paper?
No.
I'll go look for it.
And it was just so important to me that they acknowledge how important their families are. And unfortunately, it happens that they just don't realize what their parents are sacrificing to put them through school.
And there again, sort of that cycle, and because that one should really take advantage of the opportunity when they get to college to maximize their potential.
They really can, and it's their one opportunity to give back to their parents while they're able to do it. And if they make a success of their college career, that's all their parents want. They want them to be decent human beings, patriotic, and live a life that they're not going to be ashamed of later.
And that successful college student career, if you will, prepare them for successful life and career afterwards.
And if they live their lives in such a way that they have self-respect, they're going to be a success.
Great.
So that's what my opinion was. I didn't always live up to it, but I try.
You did a pretty good job. Pretty good